Characters. They are the backbone of any story. Throughout their adventures, they morph and change from their old status quo to a new one. Through and through, we usually want to see the best for our protagonists, and yet, without hardship, they cannot change. This is the duality of the protagonist. Upon liking a character, we want to see them breeze through their obstacles, and yet they become unlikable if they do. In this video, we'll be discussing the 2014 film Whiplash and why in it we want the worst. There will be spoilers. Let's get this out of the way. The ending to Whiplash is purposefully designed to throw you off. If you haven't seen Whiplash, then I'll be catching you up to speed on the film, but I highly recommend you see it first. In Whiplash, the protagonist is the soft-spoken aspiring drummer Andrew Neiman, and the antagonist is the abusive band teacher Terrence Fletcher. In the ending of the movie, Fletcher essentially tries to ruin Neiman's drumming career by giving him the wrong sheet music during a performance. The big deal here is that Andrew Neiman wants nothing more than to become a professional drummer. This is the protagonist's want. Pretty much every protagonist you've ever seen over the big screen has a want and a need. Andrew's want is to become the perfect drummer, but his need is to get the heck away from his abusive band teacher. So when Neiman predictably screws up the entire performance, and he runs away from Fletcher backstage to hug his father, we now, as an audience, believe that the want has been abandoned so that the need can be fulfilled. This is how most movies would end. Not this one. The film subverts our expectations by having Neiman abandon his need as soon as he gets it. Right after that hug, he has a change of heart, turns around, and gives the best drum performance yet. It's so good that Fletcher gives Neiman what may be for the first time a genuine smile, one with no ill intentions behind it. Supposedly. Once the drumming comes to a close, the screen goes black and the movie ends before we even get to hear the ovation. So in the end, Andrew gave up his need for a want, and not the other way around. Sounds like a bad ending, right? However, the film does seem to do a lot to try to convince us that we want this bad ending. Don't believe me? Just take a look at the opening and closing images of the film. The opening image shows Neiman adjusting his drum, making sure everything's ideal. Overall, it's just a very unsure and awkward stage of his life as a drummer. As the film progresses, we see him doing this less before playing to signify that he's improved in this way. Now notice how we see him at the far end of an empty hallway. I believe that this represents him being alone and isolated in his world. I mean, sure, yeah, he's got a family that cares about him, yet they don't care about his passion. And to Andrew Neiman, he is his passion. Now take a look at the ending of the film. Did that look like a Neiman who was unsure of himself? It didn't to me. Once again, he's being zoomed in on, but this time the lights are flashing on and off, and he's surrounded by his mentor and fellow jazz players, and there's blood on his kit, meant to signify the passion and dedication he has to his craft now. He's given up those who loved and cared about him as a person, and has found the crowd that cares about him as a passion. Now this ending may be upsetting to those who believe that everyone deserves unconditional affirmation, as Andrew Neiman chose conditional affirmation in the end. However, I feel as though Whiplash is aware of this. Think back to the dinner table scene. Things are super awkward between him and his family because they are on different pages when it comes to this very topic. Andrew's father sees where Andrew's passion might lead him, and he wants Andrew to pursue something that would be healthier for him in the end. To me, this self-awareness shows that at the very least, the film has taken both sides into account. We now know the question being posed. Is it better to be imperfect and loved? Or is it better to use love as an incentive for growth? The answer may be obvious to some. After all, everyone deserves love, right? But in the world of film, a character who goes without trials and tribulations will be loved less than a character who grows from them. When Andrew got into a car wreck, He could have waited for an ambulance. It could have taken him to the hospital where he could have been nursed back to health. The film could have just ended there without any strife on Neiman's part. But that's not what happened. Neiman got out of the wreck and ran on foot to the performance that he didn't want to be late to, that in his disillusioned mind, he couldn't be late to. The point of most stories is not for the characters to be doing what's right all of the time. It's for them to keep trying to do what they think is right until they eventually hit the mark. I mean, just think of the 3-act structure. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. I like to call these 2 lies and a truth for a reason. The protagonist journeys with 2 false ideas in mind until they hit their lowest point yet. It's in this rut of despair that they discover the truth and apply it during the finale. The difference between these kinds of stories and Whiplash is that Andrew Neiman found the truth but abandoned it in the end. Was this a poor storytelling decision or subversive genius? Well, they say that in order to break the rules, you should understand them first. And seeing how Whiplash used the same beat sheet and structure as most other movies, I'd say they understood the rules well, but chose to ignore them, to break them. I have no doubt that those who were behind the ending knew what they were doing with it. And if you ask me, I don't think they intended it to be a good ending. Neither do I think they intended for it to be a bad one. I wholeheartedly believe that it was left up to interpretation to spark conversation. Overall, I don't think that either side of the conversation is watching Whiplash wrong. It seems like the film was designed to sort of teeter on the edge like that, so that no matter which way you watched it, you were still getting something out of it. So if you still haven't watched Whiplash, I encourage you to watch it with someone else and have a healthy conversation with them afterwards about what you both thought. But no matter which way you lean, I think it's pretty objective to say that a character without hardships is like a plane without wings, destined to crash and burn. This is why we want the worst, because no matter the cost, we want to see that plane arrive at its destination.